Hey there, positive managers. Welcome to Phase 3, Module 2, where we'll look at why annual performance reviews, as you know them, are a waste of time. Annual performance reviews are a necessary evil and everyone dreads them. Managers cite performance reviews as the second most hated task after firing someone. And study after study has found that employees not only dislike them, they don't get anything out of them either. Performance management, unless done well, is a source of great frustration for employees who don't clearly understand their goals or what's expected of them at work. Oftentimes, they feel disconnected from the bigger picture. And why worry about next year's goals when you don't even know what to expect from tomorrow or why any of it matters? Annual reviews feel forced and superficial. They make both you and the employee uncomfortable, and in most cases cause the employee to shut down in preparation of receiving the expected criticism. Worse yet, most employees only receive feedback once a year. In our fast-paced workplaces, we shouldn't have to wait an entire year to give or receive feedback. In a lot of cases, the annual performance review has been tied to salary increases or bonuses. This is problematic for several reasons. It makes the process overly sensitive, and a lot of managers will feel bad giving the employee an honestly negative review if it's going to keep them from getting a much-needed raise. And the fact that the employee depends on a raise makes them overly defensive going into the meeting and far less likely to take anything positive or constructive away from it. When I worked in HR, we had a regular phenomenon occur every spring after the annual performance reviews were turned in and the raises that were tied to those reviews had kicked in. Department directors would come in and ask HR for approval to fire an unsuccessful employee. Without fail, the HR representative would pull that employee's previous performance ratings and find that it was successful or, worse yet, exceptional. They'd ask the director what had happened since the review was written just a month or two earlier. The director would confess that nothing had happened. The person had been unsuccessfully performing for a year or more, but they felt they couldn't be honest because the person wouldn't get a raise. They failed to see the irony in the fact that they were comfortable firing the person, just not denying them a raise. And somehow it became HR's fault when they were informed that no termination approval could be given until they could document the unsuccessful performance issues. Managers using an annual system also tend to keep track of each time their employee messes up. Big mistakes, little indiscretions, and everything in between. You make a note of it and you file it away in your supervisor's folder, and at the end of the year you trot it out as all of this is valuable feedback. And by collecting issues for the annual review rather than tackling them head on, right in the moment when the unacceptable behavior occurs, the message is sent that this behavior is acceptable. And this is doubly demoralizing when you then turn around and hit the employee with it during the year-end review. It feels like a punch in the face. And failing to note the problem in the moment can also demoralize the entire team who has been witnessing this unaddressed substandard performance over the course of the year. Or worse yet, you don't document anything, and a few weeks before the review is due, you'll start scrambling to document items and forget all the great things the employee may have accomplished the rest of the year. Both types of unbalanced documentation are counterproductive and soul-crushing. These manager behaviors are employee engagement killers. When you only conduct performance reviews annually, you also aren't able to develop the necessary skills needed to provide effective feedback. When it's time to do it and the feedback is negative, both parties suffer. As a result, unskilled managers avoid giving honest feedback altogether. And don't even get me started on the manager who, 2 weeks before the review period, asks their employees to provide them with a list of measurable goals and performance expectations that they've met over the year. Most of the time, the employee was never presented with anything from the manager at the start of the year or when they were hired. Yet they're now required to create a detailed self-rating and a list of accomplishments and failures. Or better yet, asked to fill out their own performance appraisal 2 days before it's due. Please tell me that you've never done those things. Gallup found that employees whose managers excel at performance management activities are more engaged than employees whose managers struggle with that same task. When performance management is done well, employees become more productive, profitable, and creative contributors. Great managers don't just tell employees what's expected and leave it at that. They clarify expectations and provide ongoing feedback and coaching to track progress. The key is not to save those critical conversations for once-a-year performance reviews. Instead, provide ongoing, year-round performance management that catches employees who go off track in real time and stimulates employee engagement on a regular basis. In the meantime, I fully realize that if your organization has a performance management system with an annual review, you're going to be required to use it. Don't worry, in the next module, I'll show you how to get the most out of it so you can make the process painless for all but the most unsuccessful of your employees.